Okay, well, welcome everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the call, the Nano Balance Call. And tonight we have Krista Way, and Krista will be sharing some exciting information about digestive health and how curcumin, particularly, and some of the other ingredients in Nano Balance positively influence gut health. So, Krista, over to you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, everyone. Um, so I know in the past we have talked about how this product can make a huge difference in brain health. And so it stands to reason that it also is going to impact our gut health because, as we know, there's something called the gut-brain axis. The gut and the brain are connected by a major nerve in the body called the vagus nerve. And so what happens in the gut affects the brain, and what happens in the brain affects the gut. It works both ways. So today we're going to be talking about how the ingredients in this product can make a huge difference to people's digestion. And most people have some kind of digestive disorder going on, even though they may not know about it. So one of the things that people probably don't realize is how much their digestive health impacts the rest of their life. You know, if your gut is off in some way, it affects you mentally and emotionally. It affects your immune system. It affects your energy levels. And as I mentioned, brain function. Oh my gosh, it just all kinds of things like that. Gut dysbiosis is often an indicator when people have anxiety issues. So all kinds of things are impacted when we have issues with our gut. So let's dive into some of these ingredients and see how this product can just make such an amazing difference to the people who are using it on a regular basis.
Okay.
So I'm going to start right now with the black pepper, or piperine, which is the extract from black pepper that is used in NanoBalance, because that has a really major impact on our digestion. And it's a herb that has been used for thousands of years, especially in Ayurvedic medicine. It's used in a lot of other countries as a part of people's diet and a part of people's medicine chest, if you will. One of the major things that black pepper is known for and why it's used on food is because of its impact on our digestion. So one of the things that it does is it actually stimulates enzymes in the pancreas and also enzymes in our intestinal tract. So basically what that means is it really helps our body break down fats and carbohydrates. One of the things that is really sad, actually, is that most of us lack enzymes in our body, especially in our GI tract. So having something that actually stimulates the body to produce enzymes is pretty powerful stuff. It's also been shown to improve the absorption rate of nutrients from your food. So when we eat our food, a certain amount of nutrients gets absorbed, the rest, we pass out of our body as waste. Black pepper helps the body extract more nutrients out of the food that we eat, which is a huge plus, right? Especially when people are on diets that, there's not a lot of nutrients in there to start with. It also helps the body produce more gastric acid in the stomach, which also helps break down food, especially protein. So what else can I say? It also helps relieve constipation, I found out, which is another big plus, right? So that's a little bit in a nutshell about the piperine and the black pepper. Let's turn our attention to the nanocurcumin, because nanocurcumin has been studied extensively for its benefits in helping digestion. So one of the major things that it does is that it interacts with our gut microbiome. So the bacteria that live in our gut, which basically are the foundation for our health, this this compound called curcumin, and especially in its nano state, actually changes the gut microbiome. So what it does is it stimulates the increase of the good bacteria in your gut, and it actually helps destroy some of the pathogenic bacteria, or the bacteria we don't want in there. It kind of, it acts a bit like a probiotic, really. So, one of the things that happens in the gut when the microbiome is out of sync, which basically is pretty much all of us, I mean, most of us, to some extent or another. It's a condition called dysbiosis. And when there is any kind of dysbiosis, there's inflammation in the gut. And one of the things we know about nanocurcumin, or curcumin in general, is that it's a fantastic anti-inflammatory. And that's as much to do with the gut as anywhere else in our body. So inflammatory conditions in the gut, irritable bowel syndrome, colitis, oh my gosh, there is so many different things. I mean, leading colon cancer, and it's part of the diabetes profile. It's part of even allergies. That's kind of where they start, is gut dysbiosis. So all these things that are affected and cause inflammation in the gut when there is an imbalance in the bacteria. And so curcumin is able to start rebalancing all of that, which is pretty amazing. Another thing that I found out that nanocurcumin is able to do is to strengthen or fortify what's called the intestinal barrier. The intestinal barrier is it's the lining of the gut, and that lining is semi-permeable. So what it's able to do is let nutrients come in, but stop unwanted bacteria and things from coming in. And when that permeability is compromised, which happens very, very easily, then we get all kinds of not good scenarios. So that's another thing that curcumin is able to do, is to strengthen that barrier, strengthen that that gut lining. So when we have a gut lining that is compromised, we have things like, you know, IBS and I don't know, colon cancer, celiac disease. There is all kinds of different ways that can show up. Diverticulitis is a really common one because that's actually that can actually produce holes in the intestinal lining. And so what happens is that, you know, all those toxins start coming in and then they get absorbed into our bloodstream. So we have this toxicity cycle going on in our body. So yay for nanocurcumin, because we have a way now to shore that up, to strengthen that. I think another thing that I've read is that curcumin positively impacts things like SIBO. So it's not just the large intestine. When we talk about the gut, usually we talk about the large intestine, or the colon is another name for it. SIBO stands for small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So that's when the small intestine has unwanted bacteria that cause absolute havoc. And it's again a very common thing, way more common than most people think. And so the nanocurcumin is able to positively impact the bacteria that actually live in the small intestine as well as the big intestine, right? So strengthening the good bacteria and getting rid of a lot of the bad bacteria that shouldn't be there, that's causing so many problems. So let's move on to thyme oil. And again, here we have another incredible ingredient for digestive health. One of the things that thyme oil has been used for a long time is as a digestive aid, because one of the things it does is that it stops gases accumulating in the colon or in the entire intestinal tract, really. And, you know, gas buildup in the stomach and intestines, it's not as innocent as it sounds. You know, it's not just a bad odor that you need to be aware of. You know, gas in the intestines can actually, if you get too much gas in your intestines, it can actually wreak absolute havoc, even to the point of if it gets really severe, it can kill you. It can affect your heart health. It can affect, oh my gosh, all kinds of things. It can raise your blood pressure. It can do all kinds of things in the body that we probably don't even think about. You know, we just worry about the smell. Well, it does a lot more than that. And so that's one of the main things that thyme oil is used for, is to actually settle all that gaseous eruption down and move it out. And it does it by moving it downward, because gas in the intestines can move both ways. And when it moves upwards, that's when it can wreak incredible havoc. So when we're trying to get rid of it, we need to move it down and out, right? So that's one of the main things that thyme oil does in the body. It has antibacterial properties. So again, it's been shown to inhibit bad bacterial growth in the intestinal tract. I mean, it does that in all parts of the body, but the intestinal tract is one of the main areas. And, you know, thyme oil is used externally as well as internally for that kind of thing as well. It's particularly beneficial in dealing with some pretty severe, you know, pathogenic bacteria, like the bacteria that causes colitis, for instance. And there's another bacteria, what's it called? I can't remember, but it's one that happens when you get food poisoning. And it causes severe diarrhea and all kinds, cramping and all kinds of other things. And so thyme oil is able to deal with all of that because it's a powerful antibacterial in and of itself. It's also an anti-inflammatory as well. So it helps to settle down that inflammation that is caused by those flare-ups. Thyme oil kills worms. It's a wonderful, what we call vermifuge, which is a herb that kills worms. So pinworms, roundworms, tapeworms, any kind of intestinal worms. And again, most of us actually have them and don't realize. So another wonderful benefit of using this product. It also can affect bacterial infections in our kidneys, in our vaginal bacteria, in our respiratory system. So all different parts of our body, but all different parts of that whole GI tract as well. It stimulates circulation. So that means it stimulates digestion. It helps us digest our food better. I know one of the things that a number of these ingredients, thymol is one, curcumin definitely as well. It speeds up the time that your food actually sits in your gut. So your food doesn't end up sitting in your gut for nearly as long as it would do, without something like this. And when it sits in your gut for a long time, it just rots, right? It's not a good scene. So, so that's it. Let's move on to manuka. And one of the things we know is manuka, it's known for its antibacterial properties. That's one of the main things it's used for when it's used medicinally. It is considered really effective for all kinds of digestive issues, including bloating, stomach ulcers, acid reflux, all kinds of things like that. There are compounds found in manuka honey. The main one is called methylglyoxal, and that helps balance the gut bacteria as well. So you can see all of these different ingredients, the incredible impact that it has in a positive way on our digestive tract. It is a natural prebiotic. So it helps feed the good bacteria in our gut. And that protects against the unfriendly bacteria in our gut. So in that way, it helps to support a healthy microbiome as well. Difficile, that's the name. Sorry, I just thought of that. That's the name of the bacteria that is really, really severe in terms of how it affects your gut. And you don't want that in your gut at all. And so, these ingredients help to eliminate that. And manuka honey is another one because of its antibacterial properties. One of the things that it is really, really good for is stomach ulcers. So again, harmful bacteria like H. pylori, which is, the basic bacteria that causes stomach ulcers, is able to be somewhat, and if you use it long enough, eliminated by taking a product like this with manuka honey in it. And the other thing it does, because it's such a wonderful anti-inflammatory, it it keeps the inflammation of the stomach lining down, because when we have, stomach ulcers or something like that, the lining of the stomach becomes very inflamed. And so, something like this is such an incredible gift, right? Another thing that it does is that it coats the stomach lining. So it basically protects it from the effects of uh, what I was just talking about, and I just lost it. Oh my goodness, stomach ulcer. So it protects the stomach lining from being destroyed by the stomach ulcer, by putting this protective coating around it and allowing that tissue to heal. So just an amazing food for supporting, healing, bringing back into balance our entire digestive system, from here to the other end. So with that, I think I'll finish there. There's a few other things I could say, but I think I'll stop there. And let's open it up. One of the things that we love to do on this call is to hear people's stories, hear your experiences, your testimonies. What is it like using this product? Have you introduced it to other people, and what's been their response? So if anybody has anything to share, we would love to hear it. And also, if you have any questions or any other suggestions of what you would like to know, maybe in a future one of these weekly talks, in a future one, what would you like to see that NanoBalance might be able to help in some way? So let's start. Whoever has a story or something they'd like to share, please go ahead. You will have to unmute yourself, obviously, if you've self-muted.
Krista.
Hi, Trish.
Yeah, I went to the conference on the weekend, and yes, I shared my NanoBalance story with Semi with dementia, and but certainly, gosh, this is so relevant for what you're talking about this morning in terms of digestion, because what is very clear to me now is happening with Semi. When I spoke to Kevin Grundy, he's a medical herbalist like yourself, and he just said, well, it's healing the gut. And that makes perfect sense, because for years I've tried Semi on other stuff. I've tried him on Synaptive, which is a good product. I've tried it myself. It's amazing, Synaptive for the brain, but it just never seemed to make a difference for Semi. And I was, giving him up to, 6 a day or something, and now I realize, of course, that we had never really dealt with the gut until now. So I don't think he was even 40 before he had an operation. He got diverticulitis. He'd only eat once a day. He wouldn't eat all day, and then he'd have a huge meal, fall asleep. Did all the wrong. Wasn't exactly, looking after himself. And they took out part of his intestine and decided to take his appendix at the same time. This was in the islands, where things are pretty, crazy when it comes to having operations. And anyway, he survived it. That's the main thing. But that's what's going on, it seems. Clearly, that's what's going on for him, is that he's getting the healing going on in the gut. And that's why we're getting, he's way more present. And the latest thing is he started looking at himself in the mirror, and he kind of smiles, and I don't know what's going on in his mind, but it's like he kind of likes what he sees. And so when I posted on the Telegram page that, maybe he's getting a maybe his vanity is coming back. You know, I wrote just as, you know, because, you know, what do we know what's going on in his head? We find him in front of the mirror quite a bit. Then he locked himself in the bathroom yesterday. First of all, never goes upstairs, but he started doing that by himself and then locks himself in the bathroom. We opened the door and going, oh my God, are we going to find him on the floor? No, he was looking at himself in the mirror, smiling.
Oh, that's so great. Oh,
but anyway, there's another man, and I'm a bit nervous about just starting him on NanoBalance, but this family has a budget, and I shouldn't sort of look. His experience may be totally different from Semi's. I've got to be aware that maybe he doesn't have the gut issues that Semi has, and I've just got to be careful. Certainly, very obvious dementia. He's still verbalizing, although he's slurring, and they seem to have a pretty clean diet. But you know, I've just got to, I guess, the best thing I can say, well, you really need to give this 3 months. I'm bringing one bottle of NanoBalance, and then I'll get her to watch this. I'll get her to watch this as well, so they fully understand that, you know, we don't actually know for sure how people are going to respond.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I love hearing about Semi. That's so amazing. Thank you for sharing all that.
Well, I pulled faces at him a couple of days ago because we like to have a bit of fun, and he looked at me and said, "Why?" He would never say why. Why are you behaving like that? It was so funny. Why, he said, why? I'm going, yeah, why indeed.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's Christine in Melbourne. I'd just like to share my sleep improvements.
Oh.
I've started experimenting. Instead of taking 2 droppers in the morning and 2 in the evening, I would spread them out 4 times, 1 dropper 4 times a day, 1 in the morning, 1 midday, 1 mealtime, and then 1 before bed. And I'm only waking up once instead of 4 times. It's huge difference. So last night I went to bed as usual, pretty late, and woke up once at 6 o'clock and then got up at 8 o'clock. I mean, it was fantastic. Instead of getting up twice in the middle of the night in the freezing cold. Yes, so a big difference just in that. And others have reported the same, of course, but that's just my personal story.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. Because that makes such a huge difference to how you feel during the day and your energy levels and everything.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Love hearing that. Anybody else have anything they want to share? NanoBalance stories. I love hearing these.
Yeah, well, I have a request, and that is maybe you could talk more about the brain gut balance, whether it's today or another session. But you know, what is that? You know, people may or may not have heard that term, but what's that connection, and how does that play into this? And again, it may be another session, but I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's a bit much to go into right now, but it's a very real thing. Like I said, there's a direct connection in the body. So there's a great big nerve called the vagus nerve. It's the biggest nerve in the body, and it's the most vital, I guess, nerve in the body that connects the brain and your gut. And it's only relatively recently that all of this was discovered, how much they mirror each other. You know, what happens in the gut affects the health of the brain. You know, brain fog. If you have brain fog, if you have, I mean, this is assuming you didn't have a serious, you know, brain injury or something. But if you have brain fog, just from day-to-day living, I would 100% guarantee that you have some major dysbiosis going on in your gut. because you can't have one without the other. And maybe in another session, I'll go into, how and why that works. But just know it's there and it's very real.
It would also be interesting to know about how appetite and how the control mechanism between the brain and the gut. Overeating is rampant, and eating the wrong things is rampant. And how much of that's controlled by the brain and why, and that interaction. And it'd be really curious to see if nano balance has any impact on people's eating habits and with that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that there are neurotransmitters in the gut, and there are hormones in the gut that basically control what you're talking about, your ability to stop when you've had enough, and to realize, oh, I've had enough, right? It's amazing how many people they don't realize, they don't feel, that's enough. People can just keep eating, and suddenly they're like, oh, I'm so full, where they should have stopped ages ago. And so things like, there's a hormone called leptin, which is one of the main ones. And one of the things that I would imagine that this product does, because I know that it influences hormonal balance in the body. And I did talk about that on one of these calls. I think mainly I might have focused on, testosterone, estrogen, that kind of thing. But the body actually makes over 50 different hormones, and they have all kinds of different things to do in the body, all kinds of different jobs that they are supposed to do in the body. And norepinephrine is one, leptin's another one. There's all these different hormones that affect how we eat, how much we eat, what we feel like eating or not eating. It's a big deal. And yes, I would imagine this product absolutely influences that, because it influences our entire hormonal system. So yeah, it will be really interesting to see if people notice anything like that. Because I remember, when we all started drinking Body Balance, how many people noticed that they weren't eating, they were eating about a third less after they started drinking Body Balance, because our bodies were being nourished in a way that they weren't before. Well, this is taking that to a whole other level. This is yes, we have the nourishment, but we're all also constantly impacted by by stress, by toxins, by our environment, by all kinds of things. So that eats up those nutrients. And when there's not enough, then those kinds of things like our hormones, they can't be created in the same way. They can't function in the same way. So it will be really interesting to see if people notice their eating habits.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Okay. Well, another one I'd love to hear more about is the signaling pathways and how particularly the curcumin, with its anti-inflammatory, how that possibly will affect the signaling pathways, both from the hormones, but also the electrical and other chemical signaling.
Okay. Well, we can go into that in another call.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's really good. I love getting suggestions of, what you would like to know about, rather than just coming up with something myself. I know that this digestion thing, Christine, that was your suggestion that we look at digestion. So Yeah, thanks for that. It was a good one. Anybody else? Love to hear other stories. Love to get questions, suggestions, whatever. Okay, well, if that's all, maybe we'll just finish up for now and get back again with you next week. So have a great week, everyone, and we will see you then.
Thank you,
very
Krista.
much, Krista. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.